In the Clive Barker Podcast, longtime fans Ryan and Jose interview guests, bring you the news, and take deep dives into Barker-related stuff. In episode 478, Ryan and Jose kick off our 14th year by going over the memorable stuff from 2024. This episode is sponsored by Don Bertram's Celebrate Imagination. Don Bertram is a longtime friend of Clive and advocate of his art. But Don's unique and inspiring paintings are for sale, and over 50% of the proceeds go to the Arts and Medicine program at the Texas Children's Cancer Center. There's even a paver in Washington, D.C. representing Celebrate Imagination. We're thrilled that this worthy cause is sponsoring our podcast again this year, and we hope that you'll consider looking over his Pinterest page and commissioning a painting of your own. For commissions, Don requires no money down, and there will be no obligation on your part. You can also head over to the Etsy shop to buy one of his books, like A Chimney Sweep's Tale, Celebrate Imagination, or The Imaginaries. Follow the link in the show notes or click on the side banner and let's see what's new with Don Bertram today. Just a few days ago on December 29th, Don Bertram posted up some paintings of that people have bought in 2024, which is great because that's kind of leads into this episode, right? Memories of 2024. So those are some of the paintings that he's sold in 2024 that helped the Texas Children's Cancer Center. Also, check out his videos. He's got one that's going over the original painting, The Bug Brothers, by Clive Barker, and another which was his introduction to the 35th anniversary screening of Hellraiser that was for charity. Hey, if you want to help us out, support us on Patreon at patreon.com/BarkerCast589. Our subscribers will get exclusive access to content not available anywhere else, like our Collector's Corner video series, rare Barker videos, and early behind-the-scenes stuff. Our supporters get to help us choose episode topics and even join us on the podcast. Our supporters also get access to the exclusive channel in our Discord server. We'll be forever grateful if you consider helping us out and subscribing to our Patreon. We owe everything to this circle of magicians, so let's give a shout out to our Patreon supporters and see what's new on Patreon. Thanks to David Anderson, Eric Van de Holt, Daniel Elvin, Amanda Stewart, Bradley Gartz, and our returning sponsor, Don Bertram's Celebrate Imagination. Coming up very soon, a feature about Hellraiser, the Hellraiser game that never happened from Color Dreams by Jose Kickoff. Welcome, this is episode 478 and our very first episode of the new year in 2025, which every year sounds like the future to me now when a new year happens. That sounds like, in the year 2025.
Yeah. Hey, Ryan, how you doing? I hope you had a great New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Awesome. I had a good time last night. My voice might be a little more radio-like today.
Okay.
So there was singing, there was much rejoicing, but we're here to talk about the year 2024 in review. All the stuff that happened related to the podcast or Clive Barker or horror in general and stuff like that we would like to bring to the table, which is always a nice way to start the year. And it was one of our first episodes. It was a 2011 in review.
Yeah, 2011 in review. And so a big feature on it was Hellraiser Revelations, because that movie came out in 2011.
Oh, my God. Yes.
Yeah, we started out our podcast with a bang. With that one.
Yep.
And Clive Barker's quote on Twitter about that,
it's not from my mind.
It's not even from my butthole.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Well, we got a lot more better things to talk about for 2024 this year.
Yeah. I guess to kick off, I'm going to say, this is a little bit self-serving, but I'm going to say it anyway, is our book, The BarkerCast Interviews. BarkerCast Interviews, Occupy Midian is what it's called. It's we started it in 2017, but we finally got it published in 2024 in around, I think, February or March. I think it's February.
That's right. Back in the day where there was no AI to help you translate, so this was a community effort, and we really appreciate all the work that our listeners put into it. And it's also on my list. It's one of my proudest achievements, along with you and everybody else who helped. And Phil and Sarah added it to their section of news for 2024. That was one of the first news that they posted for that year.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, so I'm proud that we finally got that done, and I was happy to see it finally come out and be able to hold it in my hands. It was pretty neat.
That's right. As a hardcover with our picture on the cover. And we sent it to a bunch of interesting people, including Clive Barker. I still have the picture of the Amazon delivery on his door stoop. I was like, hey, we delivered it to Clive Barker.
Oh, really? That's cool. Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
We should.
I'll show you.
Post that somewhere. Yeah. And what I'm thinking maybe for this year, I'd kind of like to make a second printing. And our first printing was sort of priced as this is how you can support our podcast price. Like buying a tote bag from PBS sort of a price, right? It's not like, it's a little high. So I'm thinking we might want to bring it down to $20 or $25 in a second printing. Yeah.
Sure. In a second printing where we can correct a little thing here and there, make it a revised edition. Keep it hardcover, or would you like to do it as a soft cover too?
Personally, I don't like soft covers, but if you want to do it, if other people are asking for it, I think we should go for it.
That's fair. I don't want
to just make it for me, so
our listeners should let us know in the BarkerCast listener group on Facebook if you would like to have a soft cover for this one, if that's something that might interest you, because it's just as easy as a click of a button on the Amazon KDP publishing options. So
probably the same size and everything.
Yep. So that was one of the great ways to open 2024 for us. We both had it in our list of memorable moments. Yeah. What is the next one for you?
Well, why don't you pick one then?
Okay. For me, also, one thing that was huge on my list was the Quartet of Torment 4K box set by Arrow Video.
The U.S. version came out in
October 22nd of 2024, a couple of months ago, and it's not a new product, but it was when Arrow Video announced the October 2024 release in the U.S. of its 4K Blu-ray and Ultra HD collections for the four Hellraiser films. Of course, I'm talking about the Quartet of Torment box. It was really something amazing, which I enjoyed a lot. And for the first time, all 4 theatrical released Hellraiser films in one package with a lot of good extras that I've enjoyed immensely. That was a milestone for people in the U.S. who hadn't gotten it yet. And then we had that release that had the 4 different Cenobites on the 4 different sections of the box when you open it. And one of them is Barbie the Cenobite for Hellraiser 3, which was played by Peter Atkins. So
that's really cool.
Yeah. Anyway, so I thought that was an interesting moment to highlight that that limited edition in the U.S. came out October 22nd, 2024. So if you were someone who hadn't gotten that box at that time and pay the really expensive price that it went for, you could buy it a lot cheaper in the U.S. now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the shipping was kind of high. I remember for that. And I ended up getting the Pinhead one rather than the Chatterer one. I wanted the Chatterer one. I don't know how. I thought I ordered it, but somehow I ended up with the Pinhead one. I think every copy of Hellraiser has Pinhead on the cover. But
yes,
this is a great set.
I've been gushing about it on every time we bring it up. It's like this is the definitive Hellraiser 1 through 4 set, and that's all you really need. Really, I mean, no. Not dissing all the other Hellraisers, but at the same time, it's like the first 4, I think, are a good stop-off point if you don't want to get stuck in the whole Jacob's Ladder.
Yes,
the sequels that came out. Of course, it's great seeing Ashley Lawrence in Hellseeker, but apart from that,
where people don't know they're in hell, and they're reliving their life over and over and stuff.
That's right, yeah. But I did get mine around Christmas of 2023, you're right, because it came out November 2023. But then once the U.S. version came out, that was also a pretty good release for everybody. It's
probably possible that, because yours came late, so you probably did get yours in 2024. right? Because you were mad at Amazon because they weren't shipping it when they said they were going to.
Yes, that's right. No, I ended up getting it just a few weeks later than everybody else, but not that much later. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that still might have been in January.
I think so, because I wanted it for Christmas, and then it said that they weren't shipping it on Christmas, that they were shipping it in January, and then I got mad and canceled my order, and then I went back and reordered it, and at that time it shipped in like a few days. So, yeah.
God.
I don't know why.
We just got an Amazon distribution center here in an old abandoned Kmart, and so now we can get things through Amazon shipping, which I've never heard of. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh yeah. Can you get things on the same day delivery? Because that's funny.
Not so far. I mean, I suppose it probably does happen, but not anything that I've ordered.
All right.
Okay, so we've got our book, and we've got the Quartet of Torment that we've talked about so far. I think my next one I want to say is our Z is for Zombie episodes, because we really stretched that out when we were covering Clive Barker's A to Z of horror recommendations and doing audio commentaries. And we did Z is for Zombie, and we decided to do all the Romero zombie movies and all the Evil Dead, all the first run of Evil Dead movies, not the remakes. And I thought that was a lot of fun. I like doing audio commentaries, and I like zombies, and we really stretched that out for an entire year on one letter, almost, which was pretty cool.
It was a great excuse to be able to watch all those awesome Evil Dead movies, and we had Ed and Nina join us for some of those. We had, I think, Joe joined us for some of those. Joe Manco from Little Spark Films, and it's just great. I love sometimes going back and testing out our commentary tracks, and I'll start playing a movie and start playing our commentary, and I'll be like, hey, this is pretty fun. And it brings back those memories of us doing that, which, like you said, it's always a great excuse to just hang out with friends and riff on a movie a little bit.
All right. So do you have another one?
The Phantasmagoria magazine, when they brought out that awesome issue all about Hellraiser, full of like stuff from Stephen Jones' editor archive. Yeah. That was a crazy cool publication. And you got the hardcover, I got the soft cover, but I still haven't gone through all of it. The soft cover came
out first, right? So you wanted to jump on it. And I didn't know about it at first, and so when I found out, then the hardcover was announced, and so like, oh, I'll get that one.
Sure. Yeah. Was it yours signed?
Yes. Yeah, it is. It's kind of a limited number thing, which is really cool. I only read about half of it so far. I want to get back to reading that.
Yes. There was a lot of stuff to read and go through, but a lot of cool interviews, that Hellfire treatment that never got made. It's just such a great publication. I keep saying, just buy that Phantasmagoria issue and buy the 4K Quartet of Torment box, and you've got yourself a really good starter kit for Hellraiser.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's a good way to sort of deep dive into it without getting the disappointment of some of those direct-to-video sequels and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Which I guess direct-to-video is a weird sort of a phrase that's going to probably go into the past, right? Because, you can make a movie just for a streaming service now, and it's not a stigma. It doesn't mean it's a bad movie. It's not like Transmorphers or...
It's good old Asylum movies.
Yeah, Jurassic Dinosaurs or whatever it's called.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. I love that book. And so I think my next one I will pick is related, our interview with Stephen Jones. That came up, I think, because he and Pete Atkins were kind of sharing our review of the Phantasmagoria, and then we ended up getting to interview him, which was really neat. He's got a lot of experience with, not only as a publicist for Hellraiser, but just as a horror publicist and writer and editor and stuff in general, which it was really neat to hear all that and hear about his collection and stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I had a great time talking to Stephen Jones, and I would love to bring him back at some point because there's so much stuff he's done that we barely scratch the surface of that.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and we were supposed to have a part 2 with Doug Bradley too. That we need to get that together.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. What's your next one?
The fact that Clive was still doing appearances in 2024 was really cool for a lot of fans out there that wanted to meet him. You know, he was at, I think, Spooky Empire, right? And then he also did a Scarefest. So it was always great seeing people post their pictures standing with Clive and getting to meet them, all the artwork that they've been buying at those conventions from Clive, and the sketches and stuff that they've accumulated over the year. That is always great to see Clive still out and about. And even though he said he's winding down those appearances to focus on writing, but for now, there's still a lot of people out there who got to be in line for hours to be able to talk to him and see how much his work means to them.
And it might be that 2024 was the last year of signings like that, or, convention appearances and stuff. Okay, I will pick, speaking of Clive Barker and his busyness and stuff, the 31 Projects interview that he did.
That was one of those moments where you're like, hey, Clive has got all this stuff going around, but it's like, when is this coming out? Yeah, a lot of stuff, right?
He talked
Poetry
about it being
book
in the middle of 31 projects.
He said he was talking about Deep Hill.
Deep Hill, yeah.
That's right, that's right.
The TV show that he was working on with Mick Garris was part of it. Sequel to Thief of Always, which was kind of a surprise. Aberrat, of course, Aberrat 4 and 5. Okay.
Yes, so it was the Bloody Disgusting interview that was published on March. Yeah, in March. It says, here's what's coming up. And you could listen to the article in the Bloody Disgusting episode. He said that Aberrat 4 and 5 were among the books that were at his feet at the time, along with the third and final book of the art, the sequel to Thief of Always that you mentioned. Yeah, he didn't name all of the 31 projects that he was on, but a lot of stuff that he's talking about. I would love to see Aberrat get finished because, we still have only 1, 2, and 3, and it ends in kind of a cliffhanger. I would love to be able to see Kree Rising and
Dynasty of Dreamers, I think.
Yeah, is that still the working title? That's cool.
I can't remember. That might have been one of the titles for 4, because 4 had like 3 titles.
Yeah, but that's one of those moments where you're like, wait, he's working in 31 projects? Like, when are these coming out?
Yeah, I know. Well, and it always seemed like stuff was imminent, coming out really soon, but I don't know, whatever's going on with publishers, or it's taking a while.
Oh, yeah. One of the other conventions that Clive did was Days of the Dead in Chicago, right, in March of 2024. I forgot to mention that one.
Yeah.
So
there's been probably 4 or 5 convention appearances that he's done.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. I think one fairly recently, because people have been posting pictures with him.
Yeah, yeah. I guess I'll go for another one on my list.
Okay.
I think this will be something you'll like to talk about. Is that Jump Tribe is going to be collected by Subterranean Press coming out in spring of 2025. So that was that announcement.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, 2024 announcement. That was cool. I think that Seraphim Inc. was working on that, right? Because there was a time when they were asking me if I could scan all the pages of all the books because they couldn't find the originals.
That is scary, and I hope that has been corrected.
Yeah.
But yes, that is a great announcement, because for people out there who never got a chance to get Jump Tribe to collect all those little books, this will be the chance to finally be able to read the story.
Yeah. Yeah,
and hopefully it'll have a lot of extra materials in it, so we can also be a visual book, not just the texts.
Right. Well, those books all have, they're paintings with like 2 sentences underneath each page. They're for small children. But yeah, I mean, to see that blown up and in a collected book, I think would be really nice. And also something to put on your shelf instead of being in a box with a plushie, which is where the books are now for me.
Right. And there's already videos on YouTube that I'm just finding them out now. I know, Clive Barker Podcast, but I just find out now that there's people receiving advanced reading copies of Jump Tribe and unboxing them on YouTube. So
no,
you can probably look that up
in our other episode that was happening, and I put in a request for an advanced reader copy.
Oh yeah,
and they said they were going to send it to me, but that was a while ago, so I still haven't gotten it yet.
All right. I just found the videos of some people unboxing that. I didn't know that. Yeah. That's how we mentioned that. Was someone posted a picture of the cover of the book. Yeah, we talked about
that, and I even told you that the guy was calling it, was it Clive Barker? In his video, he called it Clive Barker's Beanie Babies.
Beanie Babies.
Yeah.
It's kind of, well, it's technically accurate, I guess.
Yeah.
And you also did that awesome Collector's Corner for Patreon that you later published with all of your collection.
Yeah, based on an old article that we did. I made a video version of it, kind of thing.
Yeah. But then what I meant is that if you look up those unboxing videos, some people actually leaf through the book so you can see how it looks like. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so my next one, I'm going to say our episode 441 with Sorcha, Neeline, and Karmel Kniprath.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. We got to talk to them about doing their about Clive Barker in general, because they're both kind of scholars of Clive Barker, literally. I mean,
absolutely.
In their university, but also got to talk to them about doing a featurette for the Hellraiser Quartet of Torment. They did a featurette talking about Clive Barker, which was pretty cool.
Yes, in this amazing bar where they were discussing all of Clive Barker's work and stuff. That was a great episode, and definitely was great to talk to Sorcha again, who, of course, wrote Clive Barker Imaginer, Dark Imaginer. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Karmel, who's doing a PhD thesis on Gothic horror and Clive Barker.
Yeah, and Sorcha appeared on our episode 300 and cleaned house in our trivia contest. So she may not be allowed back on any future trivia contests that we have.
Yeah. But that was a great episode, and I think everybody should go check out the featurette that they did.
Yeah,
and the Quartet of Torment. That was good stuff.
Mm-hmm. So what's your next one?
Because of our book being focused on Occupy Midian, the next one was the Intrada Nightbreed soundtrack that was released, the complete, soundtrack. Finally, after a lot of years waiting for something to come out with the complete soundtrack, we finally got that beautiful release that we discussed. But it was kind of a hard episode to discuss because we couldn't really put the music on while we were recording. But what a great CD release, right?
Yeah. I mean, and it's reminiscent of the Candyman, and Lord of Illusions, right? Candyman and Lord of Illusions both had really great soundtracks with separated, musical cues and stuff. And so now finally Nightbreed got a bigger release like that.
A double CD with a lot of stuff, like the original film score and then the MCA soundtrack album in its entirety, which was the original one that everybody had. And then the extras, where we have finally the waltz and the Berserker's Party and Country Skin, fast version, Country Skin, slow version.
Yeah,
good stuff. The complete soundtrack is just amazing to go through, and I think I'm going to listen to that today again because I want to re-experience that because I want to listen to it a couple of times.
Yeah,
when we got it and when we were doing the episode, and now I think it's time to go back to that. Listen to those wonderful tracks from Danny Elfman.
So one thing I've been kind of getting into recently, and this is kind of obscure and not really related to Clive Barker, but there've been Blu-ray releases of quadraphonic 70s albums. So they're Blu-ray releases to make them surround sound, right? To use the surround sound channels for the quadraphonic. And so they call them Quadio albums, right? And I've got Black Sabbath Paranoid, and I've got
$1 Billion
Babies by Alice Cooper.
Those look great, and the boxes are almost like jewel cases, but also slightly rectangular. That's interesting.
Yeah, so you have to put them in a Blu-ray player, and then you kind of pick the songs in a menu like you would on a Blu-ray, or you can just say play all.
Quadraphonic is 4.0. Is it like, do you have like 4 speakers, 2 in the front, 2 in the back, and then you're in the middle?
Yeah, exactly.
Can you notice that the spatial, distribution of the sound? Can you feel like the drum is over there?
Yeah, and it's done differently. Like, they have little diagrams for quadraphonic, like, brass instruments go over here, and the guitars go over here, and drums go over there. So it's different from surround sound. But it's really cool. Yeah, and that's something I never really got to experience in the 70s, because as far as I knew, only rich people had quadraphonic setups back then.
Right. Well, now these things are available in Blu-ray.
Yeah, I've got another one on order right now, so I'll have a second Alice Cooper album like that.
You know what's weird is that in terms of Blu-ray, LG just announced it's going to stop making Blu-ray players, which is kind of a death knell for Blu-ray, isn't it? I mean, I think when it comes down to the formats, VHS and DVD ended up being the kings of the formats, because DVD is still being released for a lot of stuff nowadays. And I don't know if it's outlived VHS, but Blu-ray seems to be on its way out, which is frustrating and a little disappointing.
Well, there's 4K Blu-rays, and maybe that's the reason, is because 4K Blu-ray players can play regular Blu-ray discs and DVDs. Yeah. So there's no reason to just make them ones that can't play 4K Blu-rays.
Yeah, I guess so. I just don't want to be stuck in the future where we're just getting a bunch of different services for streaming, and then we don't have the luxury of having the physical editions in our house. So it's good that you're getting all of those.
And the collector markets are still pretty big. I mean, there's lots of people out there that are just happy to listen to their music on Spotify and watch their movies on Netflix. But there's a lot of people out there that collect things and want to own the thing that they're watching or listening to.
That's right.
I still don't even have a subscription to Spotify. I've never done it. I just only listen to rip my CDs into iTunes, or now it's Apple Music, and I just listen to it out of there. Well, and now these,
Yeah. I do have it in a Spotify subscription, but it's just more for the convenience,
Yeah.
Because there's so much stuff there. But, some artists are not getting compensated enough, and that's always a problem. Yeah. So we don't know how long this stuff is going to be around.
Well, there's also kind of something to the ritual of taking out the disc and putting it in and pushing play and dedicating your attention to the thing that you're listening to, instead of just having like Spotify playing in the background like the radio at the grocery store.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. All right, who's next?
Okay, I don't well, I guess I could count that Quadio Blu-ray thing as one of mine if you want to go next.
Okay. This came out in December of 2023, but I only got it in 2024. So I'm going to put that as kind of a honorable mention in 2024 was Transmutations in 4K.
Yeah.
Right?
And we got to do our audio commentary in 2024 on it.
Right, which was also pretty fun because we got to experience it in a much better quality than what we're used to seeing it in VHS or the elusive DVD version that was a little crappy, probably a Laserdisc transfer or something like that.
Yeah.
But finally, this one, full of stuff, even with a commentary track by Georges Pavlou, which might be a very underwhelming commentary track, but it is in there nonetheless.
Yeah, it was. It made me get sleepy. This is definitely the definitive, best version of Transmutations ever put out there, or Underworld, depending on, it was Transmutations is kind of the American name for the movie.
Yep.
Underworld is confusing because it makes you think of those movies with the werewolves and the vampires and stuff.
Oh yeah, with Kate Beckinsale, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and when you search for Underworld on Blu-ray, that's going to be like what you find, not Clive Barker's.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like when you look for Clive Barker and you get Clive Cussler instead.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, yeah, that was a good one. And I will say the Book Club of Blood, which was a kind of a fun way for us to because we wanted to revisit the things what we started out the podcast with, which was we started our episode 2 was Books of Blood Volume 1. And so we wanted to, but we're going to dedicate a whole episode to one story. And so we're kind of really taking our time with them and inviting people in our Patreon to come and join us. So if you're a paid Patreon member, and you want to join us on one of these episodes, please do. The more the merrier. So we want to, and our next one is going to be Pig Blood Blues. Yeah, we're not gonna start mentioning. And we can talk about how it was almost made into a movie around the 2007-2008 time frame. Yeah, so looking forward to that. But yes, the Book Club of Blood. I really like this, and I like being able to go back, and go to the basics of what we started this podcast on, and revisit now that we've had more than a decade of doing this. Maybe absolutely, and our experiences have changed. Yeah, and some stories have been more focused from the Books of Blood because some of these stories have ended up being turned into movies, or they've had standalone releases in a few years ago. But there's a lot more stories that I think are among some of the best that have not really had a lot of attention over the years, like Pig Blood Blues or Sex, Death, and Starshine should be a movie. I mean, this would be a really amazing movie to me. I don't understand how stories like Sex, Death, and Starshine have not been adapted, and they just keep adapting the Book of Blood over and over. Right? Because that's the bookend story. Okay, we get it, but we want to see the juicy stuff in between as well. Those really awesome stories that open, in volume 1, 2, 3 through 6. For America, it's just 3 volumes, but in Europe, we had 6 volumes. Well, in America, it was 6 volumes, but they had different names. So they were like In the Flesh and The Inhuman Condition, and then volume 6 Cabal. They jammed at the end of Cabal, Yeah. Or In the Hills, the Cities. That's also from volume 1. That's also going to be an amazing story. Yeah. So it's fun to revisit that. It's great to revisit that with other people who might have a different view or different insight on how that story resonated with them. So, yeah, we would love to have more people join us for these episodes and let us know their experience reading the Books of Blood. Yeah. Okay, what's your next one? My next one is a shout out to Don Bertram for his continued work and support. And the art posts and photos that he's kindly shared with us on our blog. Yeah, exactly. He's been sharing his enthusiasm about Clive Barker as an artist, as a painter, and in different videos. And he did a video introducing the 35th anniversary charity screening of Hellraiser, which was pretty neat. And so we have those, you can go watch those. And special shout out to Don Bertram, who's been our continuing sponsor for like 5 years now. Yeah, it's been a great journey, and it's always fun to have him. He's a great collector and a great friend and a fantastic person who is helping the Celebrate Imagination, right? For the Texas Children's Cancer Center. There you go. Yeah. Thank you, Don. You're really a special guy. Yeah. All right. Well, and then this is my last one. It's kind of on a sad note, but we lost Tony Todd a couple of months back. Really sad and unexpected for those of us that didn't know, that he might have had health issues. Right. Unfortunately, he passed away in the first week of November of 2024. So last month. His name was Anthony Tyron Todd, and
what a loss. He left a good body of work, and Candyman will always stay an icon and one of the big monsters up there in terms of horror characters. I remember when I was moving to Cleveland, that must have been a couple of years ago, 3 years ago. I remember when I was in Dayton, and we hired movers to come in and pack all our stuff into the truck. And one of the guys, he was an African American, and we were talking outside after they had put all the stuff in the car, and they were just talking about, sports or this and that. And then someone brought up movies, what they're watching and that they were watching at the time. And I was like, oh yeah, you guys into a horror? And then it's like this guy completely unsolicited was like, oh man, I remember Candyman. Candyman scared the heck out of me when I was a kid. I was like, oh yeah, cool. Candyman is based on a story by Clive Barker. And then of course I started unloading all my knowledge about that. Yeah. And the guy was like, oh yeah, cool. Yeah, that's, Candyman. And I still find people nowadays that will tell me that Candyman was a really scary movie they saw when they were kids. And I'm like, wow, that is something. We were just talking about that last night at the party at the New Year's Eve.
Oh, really?
Someone was asking me about my podcast, and I was talking about that. And then I brought up Candyman because there's a new podcast on Spotify about Candyman. But it focuses more on that story of the lady that called the police because she said someone was coming
through the
mirror.
Yeah.
And there's a whole series of that. I don't know if you've happened to listen to any of that, but it's a multi-episode podcast about Candyman and the real life tragedy behind the story. I was listening to it. I was a little surprised that it took them a long time to actually mention that Candyman was based on The Forbidden by Clive Barker. But yeah, that Bernard Rose was inspired by that real life thing that happened in, I think, Chicago.
Right, yeah.
With that story. And so they're focusing on what happened and how that lady ended up being killed by a gang member, that apparently there were two gangs in that building and that project. And they were having kind of a turf war. And she ended up caught in the middle. And even though she called the police, nobody came. And one of her neighbors that used to talk to her every day ended up having to force building management to go in and bring the police so they could open the door. But then the police said, we have to break open the door. And the managers of the building were like, well, we're not going to pay for that. We can't let you break the door. And that's when they finally did it. Yeah. She was dead in bed. She had been shot. She had been dead for days. And it was a horrible tragedy.
Wow, that's awful.
But yeah, if you want to know more about that story, you have that Candyman podcast that is on Spotify right now. I've just listened to the first episode, but I want to listen to more of that stuff because I want to see where what other details they add to that, because it's a fascinating tale of a tragedy that happened and obviously inspired Bernard Rose to add to the Candyman mythology and make him not just an urban legend, but actually the ghost of Danielle Robitaille, played by Tony Todd,
right?
Which has gone on to become such an iconic character. It's sad that we don't have Tony Todd anymore, and I think we've conveyed in many episodes now how sad we are about that. But
yeah.
But anyway, trying to end this on a better note other than a somber note. Yeah, what's coming up next for 2025?
Oh, yeah. So did a little bit of episode planning, and this is all kind of depends on other people's schedules and things, but we should be working on the Hellraiser Quartet of Torment, Disc 4. We want to get that one done here pretty soon. Book Club Blood, Pig Blood Blues, like we talked about. Yeah, Jericho Squad will come back. We're working on we've got two different interviews that we're working on getting in the works
right now.
Yeah. Yep. And then a commentary on Zoopocalypse that came up recently in our most recent episode we talked about that with Joe. Yeah, Joe Manco on the Yattering and Jack episode.
We might be able to dig up some stuff about that based on a first idea by Clive Barker, but then it eventually turned into something else and became like a animated movie. So I'm looking forward to watching that because I want to see how that happens. And the premise is pretty interesting, right?
Yeah.
A zoo that gets hit with a meteor, and then animals have to help each other. Also, as another mention, I just want to say that we had a really good time with Brendan Seifert in our last episode.
Right, yeah.
Which was the closing interview of 2024.
Yeah, our final episode of 2024, that was pretty cool. We got to talk to him about the Hellraiser Boom comics and stuff, and
yes, the Road Below
and projects that he's worked on,
Watch.
and
I still want to
for the future.
And I still want to recommend that people watch Witch Doctor, his first comic book series, because Witch Doctor is a hoot. I'm having the best time reading this stuff. And if you get a chance, Ryan, try to get that as well, because it's really fun. I think you'll enjoy the heck out of that.
I'm going to.
Great artwork and great writing.
Yeah. All right. Well, and this podcast, having no beginning, will have no end. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you have subscribed or followed our podcast. You can find the Clive Barker Podcast wherever you find audio. Show notes for this episode, as well as news and reviews, can be found at our website at www.clivebarkercast.com. The Clive Barker Podcast, or BarkerCast, is an independent editorial podcast and blog that's not affiliated with Clive Barker or Seraphim Inc. This is a labor of love by the fans for the fans. You can chat with us on our Facebook BarkerCast listeners group, our Facebook page, Reddit, Blue Sky, or our Discord server. Have you already bought our book? The BarkerCast Interviews Occupy Midian, available in Amazon hardcover, Kindle, and Apple Books. Join our Patreon and become a patron to get access to exclusive stuff, pick an episode topic, or maybe join in the discussion. You can also buy a t-shirt in our TeePublic store. Just go to teepublic.com/stores/BarkerCast. Leave a voicemail for us on the SpeakPipe link on our blog, and we might put it in the episode. Opening and ending music generously provided by Ray Norrish.
Thanks for listening.